You're looking good, Jack. I like you're all navied out. You're putting me to shame here.
I'm gonna tweet out the stream here. Sorry, it's been so long since I've been on Twitch. I'm a little bit like rusty at all this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I know.
But yeah, I'm all navied out. I wore this to the movie, my second time seeing the movie. A friend of mine sent this to me from, Disney World Animal Kingdom or something. These are the Disney, Mickey Mouse ears that they have at Pandora Land over
Okay,
there.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So yeah, you saw it twice already. I was hoping to go see it for the second time tomorrow. I just wasn't able to do it. Wasn't able to make the timing work, but I am looking forward to round two. I'm very much. I just watched the trailer just to get in the Avatar Way of Water mindset before you showed up, and it really like made me want to go. I was getting emotional a little bit
I
from
want to go
some.
back. I'm a sufferer of that Avatar,
Yeah.
depression that people got from the first movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I have tweets from that from like 2009, like when I was first joined Twitter. That was one of the first things that I was like often talking about was how much I would love going to see Avatar. So I'm an Avatar head from way back. And now you can't see me. I don't have my Avatar ears, but I do have my James Cameron Aliens shirt on today.
Oh,
So
very nice, very nice. I can see it now. I
okay,
pulled up the stream, and after sitting through, I think, two Glass Onion trailers, I'm able to see the stream now.
okay, good, excellent. So obviously you were very hyped for this film, Jack. I think we know. But my question, I guess, to start off this discussion of Avatar: The Way of Water, um, did this movie meet your expectations? Like, how did it perform compared to your expectation level?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, to be honest with you, sorry, my dog is whining.
That's
This
all
is
right. It's
just
all
a
right.
mess
It's
already.
okay.
This is not, the wait was long for me to return to Twitch, but it's not coming together quite as much as Way of Water did. But yeah, I liked the movie a lot, and there were things that I was kind of worried about in the lead up to it and in the original announcement and everything. The chief of which was the kids. I was like, they announced that there was going to be this new generation of Avatar kids, and so many things, so many, franchises and movies have tried to do this passing of the torch and, introducing new young characters and everything. And I was very worried about the Avatar juniors, like the little
Yeah.
Avatar brats or whatever. And I think that they worked quite well, actually. I was pretty on board for all of them, actually. Loak especially, I thought was great.
Yeah.
I thought, Sigourney Weaver's Kiri was really good. Took was funny. The only one that like wasn't quite doing it for me was like Nathan, or whatever. But then, this is going to be a spoiler discussion, I guess.
Well, I'm
For those in the
trying to.
chat.
I did warn my community. There are people that haven't seen it, so I'm trying to wonder if we can somehow maybe
Okay.
tiptoe around the major plot points
Okay,
while
then I
also
then I
not.
then I shall tiptoe. I do think that Natana, or I can't remember exactly what his name was redeemed as a character by the end of the
Yatayim,
movie.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. I definitely kind of ended up feeling like I liked him, but Loak I was kind of on board, the entire time, and Kiri I'm kind of like I'm like give Sigourney Weaver Best Supporting Actress because
yeah. She's
I
great.
buy this woman in her mid 70s as a teenage girl.
Yeah. I not only bought it with the kids, but I left the theater being like, I want to see three more films of these kids growing up, and especially like Loak's journey, right, from being this kind of outcast, this kind of like second son syndrome, to becoming something greater than that, And you see the beginning
Well,
of that journey in this movie, and I'm just like, I left the theater super hyped to see that continue. And I
I
guess we
think
got
the
to,
fourth movie, the name that got leaked, it may not end up being the final name, but the leaked name is the Tulkun Rider. And I'm
yes,
like, well, that sounds like that might be a Lohawk to me. Sounds like Lohawk might, go from being this bratty second son to being the prophesied Tulkun Rider.
yeah, yeah. And I guess we got it. We shouldn't be surprised by James Cameron, considering the way that he's been able to walk that line throughout his career in incorporating kids into especially into these sequels in
Sure.
Aliens, in T2
Newt
famously.
is one that did not do it for me as much, but also I haven't seen Aliens in like many, not many years, but in a decent number of years at this point, and I'm like, I wonder now, being a little older if Newt would bother me less,
Yeah,
maybe I had a little bit of my like teenage, cynicism or something being like,
maybe,
fuck
yeah.
Newt.
Man, it never bothered me, and I guess Newt was such a huge part of Ripley's character arc that it just felt so essential to the movie, and it really like it added something to Ripley's whole journey in the end of the film, especially.
I do think it adds something to Ripley, and it makes Ripley, especially in a sequel, to sort of add something new like that to a character is great.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised by Cameron being able to do that. But yeah, I felt the same way. I didn't really look into the spoilers for this film that much going in. I wasn't sure. I knew this dynamic was going to be there, but I found myself definitely in the first few minutes being a little overwhelmed by the big exposition dump and the voiceover narration. It was very similar to how the first film starts. But really, as soon as it settled into that dynamic of like the Sully family and spending time
Mm-hmm.
with the kids in the family, I was just totally sucked into it, and I totally bought it. And I that it just pulled me right into that world. And that's the amazing thing about this movie, I think, is that if that dynamic doesn't work, there's no movie. If you don't buy into that and buy into the stakes of caring about this family, then it just doesn't work. But it absolutely worked on me.
Yeah, and if there's any part of the movie that works less, and not to say that it doesn't work, but just maybe a part that maybe works less, it is that like right at the beginning of the movie, just because there's so much that they have to lay out. There's so many new characters to introduce and so much ground setting to lay out. And then also, while all that stuff was cool, and it was necessary, it's kind of a revisiting of the stuff that happened in Avatar 1. Like, not
Yeah,
necessarily a recap, but we're in the forests. We're
yeah, yeah.
seeing the humans come down and put a bunch of fire to all the trees and everything like that. For me, I love the kids, and I definitely think it like popped off as soon as, especially when Quaritch shows up as Quaritch Avatar. I was
Yeah,
like very on board. But like when the movie truly pops off and never stops is like when they get to the titular water, when we get
yeah.
to James Cameron's first love, the sea.
Yeah, it was really cool just expanding, just seeing the universe expand like that. Talk about something that also like speaks to different sequels, and it just made me so excited to see that expand further and to see more biomes on the planet, to maybe eventually going into space,
For
uh
sure. I think that
um
there's a comic out now, I haven't read yet, I think called The High Ground, that's based on like an aborted Avatar 2 script where the Na'vi do go into space to fight the humans,
that's cool.
which I'm into it. I want to see it, and yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I
I've heard, there was like rumors that the Na'vi will come to Earth at some point or something, and I'm truly into all of it.
they should come. Yeah, they should come and fix all our broken dying planet, which
I
is
was
like
saying it'd be
explained in
funny
this
if the
movie. Yeah.
Na'vi came to Earth and they found out that whales have something that give Na'vi permanent life, and sort of they become the villains.
We deserve it.
Yeah,
We
we
deserve
do
it.
deserve it.
No, it was really cool to see the universe expand. I really liked seeing the different tribe of Navi, that different physiology that's developed, like with close to the water and the sea, and seeing the differences between the two different cultures. It's so funny. Like that was one thing that I really didn't expect. You knew the family angle was going to be there, but how it's almost like it's like a family road trip, almost like it's funny at times. Like you see, because like Sully has brought his like kind of humanity to the Navi in a way, even though he's kind of accepted life as being one of them, but they're very much take on this kind of like human quality in terms of their family. There's that really funny scene when they take like a selfie and it's like all their eyes are all like
It's good.
it's
And
great. I thought that
Kiri's
was so
rolling her
great.
eyes,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I also think, the core of the movie, kind of what makes it so universal. We're on this weird alien planet, but it really is kind of just a story about like kids trying to fit in. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
it's not really, and that's the thing about it, it's like if you want to talk about like the writing of it, I think the writing is very solid, but also it's not meant to be flashy, I would say, the writing side of it. Although I think that there's a lot of like great ideas in there and everything like that. This is like about, the experience and the journey, and it's not meant to be a big it's a movie you basically, except for sort of one moment, is like spoiler proof in a weird way. Like, there's
yeah.
not a ton that happens in it that's not, what you would expect to happen in an epic adventure story, but it's just done and executed in such a, I don't know, stunning way, like kind of unlike anything we've ever seen before, that you're on board the entire time, and I think also it's earnestness and and James Cameron and just in being so earnest with the story and really honoring the story, even if it is just sort of a basic adventure movie plot, really makes it work. There's not a lot of like winks to the camera except for one joke from Took, which I think also works kind of as a character joke too, but there's not a
Yeah.
lot of winky we're better than this kind of
which,
material
which is
in the
all over
writing.
the Marvel films constantly. Like, oh, this is so stupid. Like winking at the audience. Like we know this. This is
Yeah,
what you're
like
watching is dumb trash. Like we're
Otto
aware of that.
Octavius,
Yeah,
really? That's your freaking name, dude? Otto Octavius? I'm like, and
exactly.
first of all, the name Otto Octavius is not even that weird to begin with. It's
Yeah,
just
I
alliteration. You
hate
know
that
what I
shit.
mean? And second of all, like you live in a superhero world. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like how many times have we gotten okay, Ant-Man, you're
yeah.
actually calling yourself
We've got to
Ant-Man.
find a
Uh,
necklace for a wizard. It's like, yeah, that
yeah, a
seems like a
purple
normal
guy,
thing
big
to
purple
happen.
guy, big
Yeah,
purple guy glove. Okay, I guess we're doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
the purple guy's behind me,
I
isn't he? Yeah,
I do have buy-in, with Avatar, and it like makes the world feel realer and more believable that the characters aren't constantly selling out, what the world is to show that the writers are smart.
yeah. I like that it takes itself totally seriously. I really like that a lot. And just in terms of like the visual aspects as well, it's like I didn't have the feeling of depression of like I want to go live on Pandora or anything, but I did have a weird realization in the days following seeing the film where I was like, I really had to come to grips with the idea that like nothing that I was seeing there was real. Like it
Yeah,
gets to
no,
a
I
point where
think
your brain
that is a good
believes
point,
it
actually.
believes like it crosses that that point where your brain just accepts what you're seeing as being something that's real, and the water, the
Hmm.
environments, the people, and
And
it's
I
like
think especially
afterwards I
the
was just like
people
I had
and
a stunning realization. Yeah,
yeah, and I think what the thing that like really struck me with this movie is, and where I think they've made the biggest leap, like technology wise, is in capturing performance, from the, in the Navi characters. I really like compared to the first one, and I've also been rewatching, the Lord of the Rings movies, which I love, and I kind of watch them every holiday. But I've just been looking at Gollum, and I'm like, man, Gollum, while really good, just doesn't have that far beyond like a Shrek's level of emoting. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And this movie, we are truly with Shrek's for the entire 3 hour runtime. And there are a lot of moments where you kind of like forget that these are fully digital characters. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that these are like there are moments when you kind of feel like you're like, okay, so this must be someone like with paint on their face or something, and it never is. Like the fidelity of the performances is really pretty staggering. And obviously the water is really good and everything like that, but I was just really struck by like, damn, we are really with full digital characters, and maybe like there's like two or three humans in it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there's maybe, as far as humans, even in scenes, it maybe tops out at like 25 or 30 minutes, and you really do buy in. The first Avatar buys a lot by like switching with Jake having a lot of scenes outside of the Avatar body,
yeah.
like we're like constantly sort of switching back and forth. This one, he's just the Avatar the entire time. And I really like bought the emotion of this family of Shreks, of a 3 hour long Shrek. It really
Yeah.
like, I buy it.
Yeah. I think one thing that I had a hard time with just for the first part of the movie was the high frame rate stuff, which
Uh-huh.
has always bugged me as well. When The Hobbit tried that, I found it so off putting and I didn't like looking at it. It made everything look cheap and weird. And I
Yeah.
think for probably the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, it was bothering me a little bit. But I think as I got accustomed to looking at it, similar to the 3D, once you settle into it, I stopped
Yeah.
noticing it about after about 30 minutes into the movie. And then it did add to the kind of hyper realism of everything.
I think that it's the best that it's been done. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because I even like, just as a movie, someone who likes weird movie tech and stuff like that, I even kind of liked watching Hobbit, even though I do completely concede that it's a truly strange decision and it really made a lot of those scenes look weird. I will say this is probably the best it's been done. I get why filmmakers keep trying to crack, that thing, because when it works, it like really is transporting and strange. What I found actually with the high frame rate is that it kind of in because he cuts between high frame rate and 24 frames per second, like, intercuts just from shot to shot. And
Okay.
I found that it sometimes made the 24 frames per second stuff look choppy. Like I was kind of, that's like, and I think that like he got the closest to it working here, but it's still not quite there. But I like a lot of the sort of tech focused filmmakers. I'm still a believer that there's something about this, but it hasn't quite been fully cracked yet. But some
Yeah.
shots in the 48 in the high frame rate, you're like, oh god damn, like that is like insanity, and I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
that.
It was really cool too. Again, not getting too into like this plot point spoilers as well though, but just in that climactic sequence, it was really cool functioning just in terms of like the story of the film, but also taking us through almost like a James Cameron museum of like kind of all of his greatest
Oh,
hits.
yeah.
And you see Aliens, you see T2, you see Titanic, you see The Abyss, like all coming together in this kind of one big climactic moment. As just a James Cameron fan, I thought that was so cool.
In some ways I'm like, what in the fuck is this man? I know he's going to be able to, because you kind of felt like this after Avatar 1, but like after that third act climax, the last hour of the movie, I'm kind of like, what in the hell where can he go from here? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this is almost like, I'm like, this would be in a way like a perfect final film, and he's still planning to do three more. Not even just a perfect final film for Avatar, but like a perfect final film for James Cameron.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, what in the hell is going to happen? I went and saw the first screening I saw. A friend of mine brought me to a SAG screening, so it was a couple days early, and it was at the El Capitan, and they had a little Q&A with some of the actors from it. They had Stephen Lang was there, Sam Worthington was there, and Sigourney Weaver was there, and they said about the scripts, they were like, number 3 kind of picks up where this one left off. 4 and 5 are insane. They were like, 4 and 5, no one has any idea what's going to happen. We've read the scripts, and you couldn't even imagine what's going to happen in these movies. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't imagine either. I'm. It's weird. I have kind of two minds about it too, because I'm like, I'm excited about James Cameron just making more of these films. I want to see the films, but it would be nice for someone that's so like he's not a prolific filmmaker. It would be
Yeah.
cool to see him do something different and do something that's smaller
Yeah.
and
I
go
mean,
back
but
to doing something like what he was originally into, like when he started out.
I agree. I'm also this is the decade of Avatar. It's something I've been saying, for a little while. The 2020s are going to be the decade of Avatar, and that is for James Cameron too. Like he is now already partially done. I look at like Avatars 2 through 5 as one massive mega movie. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like people are complaining that this movie is over 3 hours long, and I say that James Cameron is being, he's being kind to you by not just releasing the 21-hour long, or the 12-hour long movie. Like really what he's
yeah,
making here is a 12-hour long movie, but he's cut it into 4 movies,
yeah.
to be kind to you.
I would do
But
it
yeah,
too.
I
I'd
think,
get one of those astronaut diapers and just go and fucking do the whole thing. Whatever. I don't
but I'm
care.
like, he is so to your point about like, I wish he would go back to doing some other stuff. I'm open to it. I think his first real love though is bathyspheres and undersea exploration.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I think that like if he wasn't making avatars, he's probably just going to go back to like exploring the Marianas Trench and shit like that.
yeah, yeah.
But either way, I'm also like, if he spends this decade making avatars and then kind of hangs his hat up with Avatar, maybe we'll get something else from him.
Yeah, yeah. And even if he didn't, I mean, that's still a pretty good thing to hang your hat on at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. This movie, there's a lot of weird discourse about, how it's performing, and people, are saying, if it doesn't make all this money, it is the most expensive movie. Is it going to make all this money? Is it going to be able to, match the original? Already the first weekend beat the original. You know what I mean? And like it
and the
beat the
original famously
original.
took time to build up steam as well. Like I
Right.
remember all the
And
same
this is
discourse in 2009 about the original one.
There is a great, Leslie, pulled out a great Perez Hilton article from the Monday after Avatar 1 came out being like, it's a flop.
Yeah, biggest flop
Avatar
ever.
has
Yeah.
flopped. And
Yeah.
uh and so the big thing with Avatar compared to other movies like a Doctor Strange, like Doctor Strange had a better first weekend than Avatar, but Avatar is a movie that you must see in 3D, and there's only so many 3D theaters, and then there's only so many Dolby 3D theaters, which is really the way to see it. And so this is a movie I think that people, you look at the 3D showings and they're all packed. So I think that this is like going to have legs in terms of like people are kind of waiting to see the 3D version of it. And it's having really odd box office records. Like it had the biggest Tuesday ever. And so I'm like, that to me reads like a movie that's just gonna keep, chugging along. And now the first Avatar, it was a marathon. It was not a sprint. Like it got to the biggest movie ever over a series of months. And already like, it's past $500 million in its like first week. So I think a lot of like, just
Yeah.
because it has to be the biggest movie ever, there's a lot of discourse around like, ooh, did it fail? And I'm like, yeah, you're there's, by the way, they've also cleared out the release schedule until like February because movies are so scared of Avatar. So I don't know. I think that we're gonna see, more we're going to see it do well over time. And also, I mean, I don't particularly care if the Disney company makes money. I just
No.
do want to see more of these movies.
Yeah, I want to see more of the films. Absolutely. So I saw it in IMAX 3D, which was
Yeah.
great. You said Dolby was the way to go because I heard that there was this other format that I wasn't familiar with that it gets projected like on the wall of the cinema or something like that. Like,
Is that what the hell?
it's like
I can't
Cinescope or
remember. It's called
something,
like
something like
X
that.
something
Yeah,
or
I
something
don't
like
know.
that. I know that my friend saw a Top Gun screening that had like the sides of the theater were also projected on.
Okay.
But yeah, Cameron I think has said that Dolby 3D is the way to go. And just to my personal opinion, I've been seeing. I'm an AMC A-list member, of course, and so I've been seeing a
Nice.
lot of movies, this year. And I think that Dolby does maybe have IMAX beat these days. I
Okay.
think they
Interesting.
have the high dynamic range, the sound is incredible, the image quality is great, and a lot of these IMAX theaters are a little bit older, and so Dolby has them beat on the seats too. Like they have the big nice recliner seats along with the, I think, better picture quality and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. Maybe for round two, I'll go with that and see what the difference is. Um,
I honestly am interested, and this is a truly like unhinged person thing, but I kind of want to see like the 2D 24 frames per second version. There's a part of me that like just for the sake of comparison wants to go see
yeah.
the totally normal version and see how it feels to watch that.
Well, for as much as people talked about the original, like it's only a theater thing, like no one ever watches it as no. I watched the original film the week before just on my. I have a pretty nice TV. It's like it's a LG OLED TV. Looks
Yeah.
fucking great. I think it looks fantastic. Still,
I mean,
it's, it's
I of
fine.
course went and saw the 3D re-release this year, but before that, one night I just put on Avatar because I was like, oh, I think I'll just have Avatar on in the background because it's like cool looking. I ended up like sucked in and watched the entire movie. Like, by the way, the extended version that you can get on Blu-ray and I think is on streaming does have some very cool extra
Oh,
scenes,
cool.
especially right at the beginning of
Don't they show
Avatar 1.
Earth?
They show Earth,
Yeah.
and it's a great little sequence that is extremely predictive. It's like Earth, and then it like pulls up, and we see how super overcrowded it is, and people are using like oxygen masks and things like that. Then we cut to Jake Sully's apartment, which I mean, he predicted how life is going to be. It's a tiny shithole apartment, but with a huge OLED flat screen TV, just like all of us. Like he's like in exposed brick. It's like the tiniest ever, but he's got a gigantic, flat screen TV. And yeah, that's like a great sequence that I get why in the movie they were like, let's just throw them into space right away. But I really
Yeah.
like that sequence in the original movie.
I want to talk a little bit about the criticism of this movie, and not so much with the story stuff. I mean, I'm tired of these arguments about it's derivative, it's Pocahontas or whatever. It's
I mean,
it's
I'll,
the new
I'll touch on
world,
that briefly
whatever.
just to
It's
say
Fern
that
Gully. Like, I don't care
I'll
about
just
that.
touch on that briefly,
Yeah.
which is just to say that Pocahontas and Fern Gully were based on real life events. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's almost like when people are like, "It's like Pocahontas." I'm like, "Yeah," and like, is that your only interaction with the history of like Native Americans? Is the
Yeah.
story of Pocahontas? Like, yeah, sometimes fiction is based on events that happened in real life.
Especially these
And
big epic stories. You see these stories
yeah.
repeat themselves throughout our culture, time and
Yeah,
time
it's like,
again
and
for a reason.
like
Because
maybe
they,
like if you want to make a movie that's actually about something, you'll end up making a story like basing it on one of the great horrendous original sins of the country that we live in. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. But I want to get into some of the criticism like that I've seen, like particularly from Indigenous people who, are talking about how it's culturally appropriative. The idea of like taking these Indigenous tropes but casting white actors to play the characters. Um, people saying that it's like anti-Indigenous in a way on that level. And this is a tricky subject matter as well, because I would never say to an Indigenous person that's complaining about that, no, you're wrong. You're
Of
wrong to think
course.
that. I would never think that. And I think you could definitely make that argument when you're talking about like white saviorism or the whole, Sully going into this that trope, that kind of troubling
I mean, I will
trope.
say, I saw somebody make a point, and I thought this was a good point. That as far as white savior movies, this is the only one where the white savior actively gives up his
He
whiteness,
kills his
like
own
actually
white
leaves
body.
his
Yeah.
white skin
Yeah.
and becomes, part of the blue race or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of the rest of it, I don't know. I would never want to, yeah, like you said, I'd never tell anyone to like not feel that way about something. And I do think, that Cameron can probably do better with the diversity of the people that he casts, in, the movie.
Yeah, like Kate
Um,
Winslet is fine in this movie, but like Kate Winslet didn't need to be there. I don't recognize Kate Winslet really in the
But she was like
performance.
good in it, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
she
don't
was.
know.
Yeah,
Like, there's the part of me too that's like, I don't know. Like, Kate Winslet is a good actress, and James Cameron has actors that he likes working with and stuff like that. So I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know. I just like frankly, I don't know. It's again, I don't want to. It's not my place to like speak on this kind of stuff, and so I don't want to deny anyone their sort of feelings about it. And I
yeah,
think that they're honestly held. I don't personally have that problem with it, but hopefully if Cameron, feels, that the criticism is well warranted, he'll like address it, I
yeah.
guess is how I feel about it.
I
But
think, I think,
ultimately, I think it is like, as far as like it's like politics and it's like view of the world and everything like that, I think it is like positive, and so,
well, that's what I mean.
improvements can be
Yeah,
made with anything.
that's what I mean. It's like this is a major Hollywood blockbuster film, and the explicit theme of this movie is that armed, violent, militant resistance to like colonialism and this kind of extractive capitalism is not only necessary but morally righteous and a good
And
thing to
also
do.
like extremely violently, like compared to some
Yeah,
of these other movies, like a lot of blockbusters that we have here don't show any deaths whatsoever, like aside from yeah, again, yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's rare to see a movie that has politics like this. As someone in the chat is mentioning, it's like James Cameron did show up, to a lot of like to Standing Rock and all these kind of things and everything. I
in
think he
Brazil, see the
is
tribe
sort
that was
of
protesting a big
actually
dam that was in the Amazon rainforest as well. He's been big on that kind
right.
of
I mean,
stuff.
he's like in like he has I don't know, good, probably not perfect politics because he's a massively rich man or whatever, but as
Yeah,
far as
yeah,
these kind of things go, I also think that there's, I don't know, there's a hollowness sometimes in like just, in just nothing but representation. You know what I mean? Like to me, I'm like, is the Black Panther a better movie because it actually casts a lot of black actors but has these pro CIA and
yeah,
pro imperialist themes? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
in some ways, I'm like, it's so surface level to just care about like, the ratio of how many people are cast and everything like that. But also, again, I'm like, let everyone have their criticisms and it's all gravy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's right. Though. That's Black Panther's such a good example. That the ultimate theme of that movie is like the way to have reparations and to heal these like traumatic wounds in these black communities is to work with the CIA to open a single community center in South Central Los Angeles, and that's the way you
Right.
do things. And if you're stealing away art that's been stolen by these colonizers, or if you're arming and organizing these militant communities to fight back against their oppressors, that's a big no-no. You don't want any of that. But
I mean,
you got to
just think
work within
about
the system.
how many modern movies have the villain, because they have this idea that they want villains to be like relatable and to have like not to be just pure evil and everything. But there are so many movies where the villain is an environmentalist, like
Yeah,
this is a
yeah,
very common thing in modern blockbusters, is the environmentalist villain. And Avatar just doesn't want to have that. I mean, sometimes nuance, you just don't fucking need it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
sometimes like the bad guys are just America and the people that want to extract, natural resources and kill people and cultures doing it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't
yeah.
have to be like sometimes nuance isn't useful.
Well, and on that note too, with this film, I mean, the first film, as much as it got criticism for like the whole like unobtainium angle, which I also
Yeah.
thought was stupid. Like it's difficult
God,
to
I can get
obtain,
into it.
so these
Well,
scientists came up with a cheeky name for it. Like,
first of all,
okay,
by the
big
way,
deal.
this is the other argument for unobtainium, of which there are many, but unobtainium is a term that's used in science already.
Yeah,
Unobtainium is a term that they use to describe elements that don't exist when they're talking about theoretical science.
yeah,
Like when they're talking about like, oh, this might be able to work if we found an element such as unobtainium. It is kind of a cheeky thing that they do. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility that scientists would
no,
eventually name a perfect substance unobtainium. And then on top of that, even if it wasn't used in science, I think it's like a good kind of mythic name
yeah,
that like, we immediately understand what the fuck that is from the first time anyone said it. So I think that criticism was a little goofy and overblown.
yeah. It's a funny thing to get
Um,
hung up on. But I
yes,
did
yeah.
like how this movie though explicitly is more about like the resource extraction is part of it, but it's also just about settler colonialism, right? And they're talking about just colonizing the planet now. And I thought that was an interesting
I thought so
thing
too,
to add
actually.
into
And
it.
it is like the next step in like the America thing. It is like, what Edie Falco is there for is to like establish, American human life on
Yeah,
Pandora. It's not about just getting the unobtainium. Although there is also the
the
great what is it called, like amber
yeah the
amtini
Tolkien thing.
amrita
Yeah,
amrita yeah,
that's really very
amrita is
cool.
great. I
Yeah,
love the explanation by the whaler where he's like, this stuff stops human aging, like stops it. That
yeah,
line, I'm like, that is like 6 words long, and we're like, okay, damn, I get it, like crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Like holy shit, yeah, people would do some crazy stuff for that.
yeah. Um, and yeah, I guess just to get it, like just the final thing on that whole criticism again, I try to be, I really making an effort to be sensitive about that, and I like we are saying, I wouldn't want to tell anyone how to feel about it. I guess that's where I find it a little bit. Um, it goes off the rails a little bit is that's kind of like what science fiction is supposed to be about, is these kind of allegories and metaphors and using these fantastic creatures to tell stories about humanity and Earth. Like
This is
I think the
also
Bajorians and the Cardassians and Deep Space Nine is a great example of where the Bajorians are like they're simultaneously Palestinians and they're
right.
Jews being persecuted during the Holocaust.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what great science fiction is taking these kind of things and telling us stories about humanity using these
I agree
fantastical
with that, and
concepts.
I agree with that, and I also do think that maybe where James Cameron made a misstep here is with, but I don't know if it's even a misstep because I do think it works. But he has just made the Na'vi so explicitly Native Americans, although it's a little more so in the first movie than in the second.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit like of the thing where you're like, he needs to cast Native people. And I'm like, but is this just Native Americans, or is it also like African tribes? Is it like every type of
Well, it's like the Sea Tribe is
non-white
kind of like Maori
European?
as well. It's like it's about a bunch of different victims of colonialism, right, from around the
Right. Yeah.
world.
It's kind of all of them. And, I don't know. And so in some ways, yeah, like, and then also, I would even say this about the white savior narrative in movies and everything like that, is that like, yeah, like fiction is supposed to expose people to new ideas and to new concepts kind of through characters that they relate to, and a very basic way of doing that is by having a character that kind of looks like the person who needs to understand this moral. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the white savior thing is like, yeah, because you're trying to make a story to help white people understand why what happened is fucked up. And so it's like, yeah, like that, so they can kind of identify with a character and see through their eyes and everything like that. Like I just don't necessarily see it as such like a pro-white thing, although I understand the criticism, and I do think that, it's worth, having this in mind when you're creating new stories. And it really did become, a stereotype in movies and everything like that. But I don't think that the motives of it were quite so nefarious as like, we're going to show people that like only white people can save the day. I think it was more like,
We literally need to kill white people by the
other
thousands.
cultures. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's an important point. So I'm really happy to have you come on and talk about the film, Jack. It was really cool. I think I had another great point there and I lost it just at the last moment, but it's fine. I guess it wasn't that important.
There was something else I was going to say too, but
okay, no, I just wanted to, this is what I wanted to say, which is just that, like, as people have pointed out, you can talk about the politics of the movie or whatever, and how has good politics or bad politics, or which movies do and don't. But I think we do have to get away from this idea that consuming media is like a political act in and of itself, which we know it's not. Sure. It's not radical. It's not a radical political act to go see the Avatar way of the Disney Corporation's Avatar way of water in the theater. It is a radical act, though, to like blow up an oil pipeline or to fight back violently against like colonizers that are destroying the planet, destroying these cultures, which is an act that this film explicitly endorses, like in no uncertain terms. So I think that's also something to keep in mind when we talk about the politics of the film.
I would also like to, just because there has been a lot of chatter, even in this very chat, about the length of the film, that I agree with James Cameron that people sit and watch like 7 episodes straight of fucking TV shows, like every single day, like every weekend. People are like, I watched like 7 hours of some shitty fucking reality show, or like I binged all of Stranger Things. Like, I just don't think it's that crazy to, for like the price for $20 to be given 3 full hours of a truly insane experience. And like they actually have bathrooms.
Yeah, you can go pee.
That can go to.
Fine.
I mean, just to even respond directly right now to the person in your chat, like, why do this when you could be gaming? Gamers will sit for fucking 9 hours and like mine a fake mineral in World of Warcraft or something like that. Like, why spend that time gaming when you could spend that time in Pandora, I would say.
Yeah, it's true. I just want to spend it in Pandora as well.
That's how I feel.
Absolutely. Anyway, I could have gone 5. Like, give me 5 hours next time. I can do it. I can take it.
If people want to be, white saviors by blowing up oil rigs and stuff like that, I say, in parody and allegedly, go ahead.
I would never endorse that personally, obviously, but it's something that this film does endorse. It would be very interesting if that were to happen. Absolutely. Jack, thanks so much. I wanted to catch up with you a bit more about like Biden and all that stuff, because I remember we had a great conversation in like 2019. We were dreading what it would look like if Biden was possibly elected. I would really like to get your thoughts on that, but I don't want to keep you too much longer. Maybe you can come back sometime in the new year and we can catch up again, because it's really great to get to catch up with you.
That sounds good. Yeah, just let me know. I'm generally around, but yeah, we can find a time. I'd love to whenever I'm available.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and like Hildebeest in the chat is pointing out, I literally sit here for like 4 hours a day here talking into a camera.
It's funny that people are like, Avatar's too long. I'm like, do you sit for 6 straight hours and watch someone play Minecraft while talking about Joe Biden? Like, I think we have to get over that particular criticism.
Yeah. Especially it's my friend Jordan. He's trying to rib me. He's ribbing me in the chat. That's why it gets under your skin like that. I get it. But thanks so much, Jack. It was really great to talk to you about this. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. I'm looking forward to seeing round 2, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks for doing this.
Good times. I'll talk to you later on. Later.
Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, Jack.